The command center erupted into controlled chaos when Hana arrived. Screens displayed dozens of red markers representing hostile ships. Officers shouted coordinates and status reports. Admiral Trelvac stood at the central display, his scaled face tight with concern. Hana moved to her station and pulled up the tactical data. Her breath caught. The pirate armada was massive. Hundreds of ships, not the small raiding party's intelligence had predicted. They surrounded the station in a loose formation, engines hot, weapons charging. "Report," Trelvax demanded. A Vraxian tactical officer responded quickly. 347 hostile contacts, Admiral. Mixed classes. They are using irregular formations. Our defensive grid is designed for organized assault, not this chaos. Deploy the fleet according to Defense Pattern Alpha, Trelvax ordered. Establish firing lanes and maintain formation integrity. Coalition ships moved into position with practiced precision. Beautiful formations, perfectly spaced, optimal firing angles. Hana watched and said nothing. She had studied Vraxian military doctrine. It was built on the assumption of technological superiority, clean battles, efficient victories. The pirates attacked. They did not follow any recognizable battle plan. Ships dove through the defensive lines at random angles. Some rammed themselves into coalition vessels, sacrificing themselves to create openings. Others swarmed single targets with overwhelming numbers. It was chaos. It was brutal. It was effective. Within minutes, the perfect formations broke apart. Coalition ships scattered, trying to respond to threats from every direction. Hana watched 3 Vraxian cruisers go dark, their shields overwhelmed by concentrated fire from ships that should have been easy targets individually. Multiple breaches on decks. 12 through 18, a station officer reported. Boarding parties. Security teams are engaging. Trelvax turned to a communications officer. Order security to establish defensive choke points. Standard containment protocols. Hana accessed the internal security feeds. She watched coalition soldiers engage the pirates in the corridors. The defenders were well trained, using cover effectively, firing with precision. But the pirates did not care about casualties. They charged forward even when hit, even when mortally wounded. One pirate took 4 plasma shots to the chest and still managed to tackle a Zentari guard before dying. The defenders started falling back. "Admiral," Hana said quietly. She did not wait for permission to speak. "May I suggest an alternative response?" Trelvax looked at her with barely concealed irritation. "Commander Kim, I am somewhat occupied, I am aware. That is why I am making the suggestion. These pirates fight with desperation tactics. Your forces are trained for civilized warfare. You need soldiers who understand this kind of combat." Another alarm sounded. "More breaches. More boarding parties. What are you proposing?" Trelvax asked. "Human Protocol 7. It is a contingency plan for exactly this situation, but I need your authorization." The Admiral looked at his displays. Coalition casualties were mounting. The pirates pushed deeper into the station with each passing minute. He had never heard of this protocol, but he was running out of options fast. "Authorized," he said curtly. "Do what you need to do." Hana's fingers moved across her console. She activated a station-wide communication channel reserved for human personnel only. When she spoke, her voice was calm and clear. "All human personnel, this is Commander Kim. Protocol 7 is now active. Authorization code Omega Tango 37. You are weapons free. Show them what we are." She closed the channel. Trelvax stared at her. "What does that mean?" "What is weapons free?" "It means we stop pretending to be like you," Hana said simply. In Sector 12, Sergeant Jiwoo Choi heard the message. She and her squad had been falling back steadily before a pirate assault. 15 enemies pushing forward with reckless aggression. Her squad of 8 was down to 6, and they were running low on ammunition. The Zentari soldier who had mocked her training crouched behind cover nearby. His forearms trembled as he reloaded his weapon. "They are not stopping," he said. "Why are they not stopping?" Jiwoo heard Commander Kim's message in her earpiece. Something changed in her expression. The careful patience she had maintained for 3 years vanished. What replaced it made the Zentari soldier take an involuntary step back. "All human squad members fall in," Jiwoo said. "We are done retreating." "Sergeant," the Zentari said, "we should keep falling back. There are too many of them." "Stay here if you want," Jiwoo replied. "Watch how humans actually fight." She stepped out from cover. The 3 other humans in her squad followed without hesitation. They moved forward in a tight formation. The pirates saw them and charged, howling their battle cries. Jiwoo's movements were nothing like what she had shown in training. She was faster, harder, more vicious. Her rifle fired in controlled bursts as she advanced. When a pirate got close, she dropped the gun and used her hands. She broke an arm, crushed a throat, used her enemy's own weapon against them. The Zentari soldier watched in shock. This was not the gentle instructor who had patiently demonstrated techniques. This was something else, something ancient and terrible. Jiwoo moved through the pirates like a force of nature. Every motion was designed to hurt, to break, to kill. A pirate stabbed her in the shoulder. She did not even slow down. She grabbed the blade, pulled the pirate closer, and headbutted him so hard his skull cracked. Blood ran down her arm, but she kept moving forward. The other humans fought the same way. One of them, a young Marine barely 20 years old, took a plasma blast to the leg. He went down but immediately grabbed the nearest pirate and dragged him down too. They grappled on the floor until the human's combat knife found the pirate's throat. The pirates started to hesitate. They had expected prey that ran. They had not expected predators that fought like this. In the command center, Lieutenant June Park appeared at Hana's side. He had come from his communications post to help coordinate the human response. His screen showed tactical feeds from across the station. All human units reporting weapons-free status, he said. They are advancing in sectors 9 through 15. Casualties are heavy, but they are pushing the pirates back. Admiral Trelvac stared at his own displays. The tactical map showed something impossible. Green indicators representing human squads were not holding positions. They were advancing. Against superior numbers. Against enemies who fought with suicidal desperation, and they were winning. How? The Admiral asked. There were only 200 humans on this station. How are they making this kind of difference? Hana pulled up a security feed and displayed it on the main screen. It showed a human squad engaging pirates in a narrow corridor. The Admiral watched as a human soldier took 3 direct hits and kept fighting. Another human lost his weapon and immediately transitioned to hand-to-hand combat with such savage efficiency that the pirates broke and ran. We are making a difference, Hana said quietly, because this is what we were built for. This is what 10,000 years of constant warfare does to a species. We learned how to fight when wounded. We learned how to push through pain and fear. We learned how to win when victory should be impossible. The Admiral said nothing. He just watched the feeds. In Sector 12, Jiwoo's squad finished clearing the corridor. 15 pirates lay dead or dying. The 4 humans were all wounded. The young Marine with the leg injury was being helped up by his squad mates. Jiwoo's shoulder bled freely, but she was already checking her weapon and preparing to move forward. The Zentari soldier emerged from cover slowly. He looked at the carnage, looked at the humans who still stood despite injuries that should have incapacitated them, looked at Jiwoo, who had shown him patience for months while he mocked her. "Sergeant," he said quietly. "I apologize for everything." Jiwoo looked at him. Her face was spattered with blood. Her eyes were hard. "Save it for later. Right now, stay behind us and try to keep up." She moved forward. Her squad followed. The Zentari soldier stood frozen for a moment, then hurried after them. He had just seen something that would haunt him for the rest of his life. He had seen what humans actually were beneath the careful politeness. In the command center, alarms started changing tone. The hostile ship markers on the tactical display began moving. "Not attacking, retreating, Admiral," a tactical officer said in disbelief. "The pirate fleet is breaking off. They are initiating emergency hyperspace jumps." Trelvax leaned forward. "What? Why?" June pulled up intercepted pirate communications. His face showed no expression as he translated. "They are calling retreat across all channels. The boarding parties are being ordered to disengage and withdraw immediately." The Admiral looked at Hana. "They outnumber us 5-1. They are winning this battle. Why are they retreating?" "Because they are not winning anymore," Hana said. "They came here expecting prey. They found predators instead. And now they understand something important. We will not stop. We will not break. We will hunt them through every corridor until none of them are left alive. They are doing the smart thing. They are running before it is too late." The last pirate ships vanished into hyperspace. On the station, remaining pirates tried to retreat to their boarding craft. Most did not make it. Human squads pursued them relentlessly. Admiral Trelvac sat down heavily in his command chair. Around him, alien officers stared at displays they did not quite believe. 12 hours after the battle, Station Zenith 7 looked like a war zone. Repair crews worked around the clock to patch hull breaches and restore damaged systems. The medical bay remained full of wounded soldiers. Bodies of the dead were being prepared for their final journeys home. But something had changed in the air. The way alien soldiers looked at humans was different now. Where before there had been dismissal and barely concealed contempt, now there was caution, respect, and yes, fear. In the largest conference room, Admiral Trelvax gathered his senior staff. All the human commanders were present. Hana sat at the table with Captain Daewon Lee on one side and Lieutenant June Park on the other. The room was crowded with officers from every species in the coalition. The Admiral stood at the head of the table. His scales had regained some of their shine, but his eyes remained troubled. I have called this meeting to discuss what happened yesterday. Not just the battle itself, but what it revealed about our coalition and our preparedness for actual combat. He pulled up tactical displays showing the battle progression. We were losing this fight. Our formations broke. Our troops fell back. By all strategic assessments, we should have lost the station. Then Commander Kim activated Human Protocol 7, and everything changed. A Vraxian captain raised his hand. Admiral, with respect, we still do not understand what Protocol 7 actually is. Why did it have such an immediate effect? Trelvax looked at Hana. Commander Kim, would you explain? Hana stood slowly. Protocol 7 is simple. It is permission to stop pretending. For 3 years, human personnel on this station have been operating under strict rules of engagement. We were instructed to follow coalition combat doctrine, to fight the way you fight, to hold back our natural instincts and capabilities. Protocol 7 removes those restrictions. Hold back? A Zentari officer asked. What do you mean? Captain Lee stood to join Hana. Coalition warfare is clean, efficient. You minimize casualties and fight with superior technology. Human warfare is not clean. We evolved on a death world where everything wanted to kill us. We learned to fight through pain, injury, and exhaustion. We learned to use everything as a weapon. We learned to win by being more stubborn than our enemies. He pulled up combat footage from the battle. Watch this corridor fight. See how the human soldiers move forward even when wounded? See how they transition immediately from range to close combat when necessary? See how they use the environment, their enemy's own weapons, anything available? This is human combat doctrine. This is what we were built to do. The room watched the footage in silence. The violence was shocking. Not because it was gratuitous, but because it was efficient. Every human movement had purpose. Every action was designed to hurt the enemy while protecting allies. Admiral Trelvax spoke again. I have been in contact with Coalition High Command. They have reviewed the battle reports. They have questions, many questions, but they have also made some decisions. He changed the display to show official documents. Effective immediately, human combat doctrine is to be studied at all Coalition military academies. Human instructors will be assigned to every major training facility. And Commander Kim, Captain Lee, your services are requested by High Command for a complete tactical review. Murmurs spread through the room. This was unprecedented. The Coalition had never before adopted tactics from a member species so quickly. There is more, Trelvax continued. High Command has asked for recommendations on how to integrate human capabilities into our overall strategy. They want to know how best to use your species' unique strengths. June stood for the first time. Admiral, may I speak? Please, you are asking how to use humans effectively. Let me be direct. You do not want us for your frontline regular forces. We are not suited for clean, organized warfare. We get bored with that. What you want us for is the messy situations. The desperate last stands. The impossible rescue missions. The fights where the odds are terrible and victory seems unlikely. That is where humans excel. A Vraxian general leaned forward. You are suggesting we use humans as specialists? For high-risk operations? Exactly, June said. Let your forces handle normal combat. Your tactics work well for that. But when you need someone to hold an impossible position, send humans. When you need soldiers who will chase an enemy through hell itself, send humans. When you need troops who simply will not quit no matter what, send humans. Captain Lee nodded agreement. We are not better soldiers than you. We are different soldiers. Your species developed warfare based on technology and tactics. We developed warfare based on endurance and stubbornness. Both approaches have value. The key is knowing when to use each. The meeting continued for 3 more hours. Plans were made. Protocols were written. By the time it ended, the coalition military structure had fundamentally changed. Humans would no longer be treated as generic troops. They would be specialists in desperate combat. After the meeting, Hana walked through the station's corridors. Everywhere she went, alien soldiers nodded respectfully. Some saluted. None laughed. She stopped by the medical bay to check on wounded humans. The young Marine who had fought with a shattered leg was awake. His injury was severe, but he would recover. A Vraxian doctor stood beside his bed, reviewing his charts with clear confusion. "Your healing rate is remarkable," the doctor told him. "In any other species, this injury would require months of recovery." "You will be walking in 3 weeks," the Marine grinned. "Humans heal fast, Doc. Comes from spending most of our evolution getting injured while hunting things that could kill us." Hana moved on to find Sergeant Jiwoo Choi, the instructor, was already cleared for light duty despite her shoulder wound. She sat in a training room with the Zentari soldier who had mocked her, going over basic techniques again. But this time the alien paid perfect attention. "No, like this," Jiwoo said patiently, demonstrating a joint lock. "You need to commit to the movement fully. Half measures do not work in real combat." The Zentari practiced the move carefully. "Better?" he asked. "Much better. You are learning. This time you are actually trying." "I have motivation now," the alien said quietly. "I saw what happens when training is ignored. I saw how humans fight. I want to learn even a fraction of that capability." Jiwoo nodded. "Good. That is the right attitude. Remember, we do not teach you to fight like humans. We teach you to understand how humans fight. And maybe when it matters most, you will remember that sometimes the best tactic is simply refusing to give up." Far from Station Zenith 7, in the lawless edges of Coalition space, pirate networks gathered to share information. The battle was already legendary. A station that should have fallen, an armada that should have won easily, and humans who fought like demons. A pirate lord addressed his captains in a hidden base. "Spread the word. New target priorities. Avoid human ships. Avoid stations with human defenders. If you see human markings, retreat immediately. Do not engage," one captain objected. "They are just one species. We outnumber them vastly." The pirate lord pulled up footage from the battle. "I have talked to survivors. Do you know what they told me? They said fighting humans is like fighting ghosts. Humans do not stop when shot. They do not break when outnumbered. They do not retreat when wounded. They just keep coming, keep fighting, keep killing until they die. And apparently they are very hard to kill." He paused. One survivor described it perfectly. He said, "Those are not soldiers. Those are predators pretending to be civilized. Well, they are not pretending anymore. And we are the prey. So we avoid them." "Understood." The captains nodded slowly. A new rule had been added to the pirate codes. Humans were off limits. The price was too high. Back on Station Zenith 7, evening came. Hana stood on an observation deck looking out at the stars. June joined her after a few minutes. "Have you heard?" he asked. "Galactic news networks are picking up the story. They are calling it the Battle of Zenith 7. They are saying it marks a turning point for the Coalition." "They are not wrong," Hana replied. "Everything changed yesterday. We can never go back to being the harmless newcomers. Do you think we should have revealed our capabilities sooner?" Hana considered the question. "No. 3 years of patience was not wasted. We learned their ways. We built relationships. We proved we could fit into their system. Now when we show them what we truly are, they understand it is a choice. We can be civilized. We can be gentle. But when necessary, we can be something else entirely. That something else scares them," June observed. "Good. A little fear breeds respect. They need to understand what human warriors really are. Not myths, not legends. Just history. History that is still very much alive." They stood in comfortable silence watching the stars. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was learning a new truth. Humans were not the primitive species they appeared to be. They were survivors from a death world. Warriors from a culture built on 10,000 years of constant warfare. And now they were part of the Coalition. The aliens who laughed at human legends were not laughing anymore. They were studying those legends as tactical manuals. They were learning what humanity had always known. The most dangerous warrior is not the one with the best weapons. The most dangerous warrior is the one who simply will not quit. And humans never quit. The medical bay was chaos. Wounded soldiers from every species filled the beds and covered the floors. Medical staff moved frantically between patients, trying to prioritize the worst injuries. The smell of burned flesh and blood hung thick in the air. A Vraxian doctor worked on a human Marine who had taken 17 plasma hits during the fighting. The doctor's hands shook as she examined the burns. This patient should be dead. The injuries should have stopped his heart. Yet he had somehow continued fighting for another 8 minutes after receiving them. How is this possible? She asked a human medic nearby. The medic shrugged while treating another patient. Adrenaline is one hell of a drug. Human bodies produce massive amounts when we are in danger. It overrides pain signals, lets us keep moving when we should not be able to. But this is not just overriding pain. His body temperature should have caused organ failure. His blood loss should have killed him. Humans heal fast, the medic said. Faster than most species. We evolved to survive injuries that would kill others. Had to, really. We spent most of our evolution either hunting dangerous prey or fighting each other. The ones who died easy did not pass on their genes. The Vraxian doctor looked around the medical bay. She counted at least 30 human patients with injuries that should have been immediately fatal, yet they were all still alive. Some were even conscious and talking. Your species is terrifying, she said quietly. The human medic smiled without humor. You are only realizing this now. In an emergency conference room, Admiral Trelvax called together all human commanders on the station. Hana sat across from him. Captain Daewon Lee had arrived from his special operations base on the lower levels. Lieutenant June Park stood near the door. 2 other human officers completed the group. The Admiral looked tired. His scales had lost some of their shine. He had spent the past 6 hours reviewing combat footage and casualty reports. What he learned had shaken him deeply. I need to understand what happened today, he said. My forces are trained by the finest military academies in the galaxy. We have superior technology and centuries of combat experience. Yet when the pirates boarded this station, it was your 200 humans who turned the tide. Explain this to me. Hana exchanged glances with the other humans. They had known this conversation would come eventually. She just had not expected it so soon. Admiral, we tried to tell you. You thought our history was mythology. It was not. Every story about human warriors fighting to the last breath was true. Every battle where we held impossible positions actually happened. We do not exaggerate our military past. We sanitize it because the full truth frightens us. Trelvax leaned forward. Be specific. What makes humans different? Captain Daewon Lee spoke for the first time. His voice was quiet but firm. We evolved as persistence predators, Admiral. Do you know what that means? The Admiral shook his head. It means we hunted by chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. We were not the fastest species on Earth. We were not the strongest, but we could run longer than anything else. We could track wounded animals for days across open terrain. We could push through pain and injury because stopping meant starving. That evolutionary pressure shaped everything about us, Hana continued. Our bodies produce massive amounts of adrenaline. We heal quickly from injuries. We have incredible endurance. But more importantly, it shaped our psychology. We do not give up. Ever. It is not in our nature. And then we spent 10,000 years fighting tribal wars, June added. Every culture on Earth developed its own warrior traditions. We refined the art of killing each other. We got very, very good at it. Trelvax sat back in his chair. His expression was troubled. I have reviewed your planet's history since the battle. The casualty numbers from your ancient wars are staggering. Single battles with hundreds of thousands of deaths, wars that lasted decades. And you fought these conflicts with primitive weapons. Yes, Hana said simply. We fought with swords and spears and arrows. Later with rifles and artillery. The technology changed, but the fundamental nature of human warfare never did. We learned to accept casualties that other species consider unacceptable. We learned to keep fighting when any rational analysis said we should surrender. Captain Lee pulled up a holographic display. It showed battle statistics from throughout human history. Look at these numbers, Admiral. The Battle of Stalingrad in our Second World War. Over 2 million casualties. The city was destroyed. Both sides suffered terribly. The battle lasted 5 months. Neither side would surrender. He changed the display. The Battle of Thermopylae. 300 Spartan warriors held a narrow pass against hundreds of thousands of enemy soldiers. They knew they would die. They held the position anyway. They fought until every single one of them was dead. Another change. The Siege of Leningrad. Almost 900 days. Over 1 million civilians died from starvation and bombardment. The city never surrendered. These are not isolated incidents, Lee said. This is pattern. This is what human warfare looks like. We do not fight until victory is unlikely. We fight until victory is impossible, and then we keep fighting anyway. Trelvax was quiet for a long moment. Finally he spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. Why did you not tell us this when you joined the coalition? We tried, Hana said. You thought we were exaggerating. You thought our warrior legends were propaganda. And honestly, we were trying to fit in. We thought if you saw what we really were, you would fear us. Turns out you needed to see it to respect us. I do fear you, the Admiral admitted. I watched the combat footage. Your Sergeant, Jiwoo Choi. She took a blade to the shoulder and did not even slow down. One of your Marines fought for 8 minutes with injuries that should have killed him instantly. This is not normal. This is not how civilized species conduct warfare. You are right, Hana said. It is not civilized. We spent 3 years being very civilized with you, following your protocols, fighting your way. Today you saw what happens when we stop pretending. Elsewhere on the station, Sergeant Jiwoo Choi sat in the medical bay with her shoulder bandaged. The Zentari soldier who had mocked her training sat beside her. His forearms were folded and he stared at the floor. In training, Jiwoo said suddenly, when you asked how much I was holding back, do you still want to know? The Zentari looked at her. His expression was haunted. I think I already know. You were holding back almost everything. About 80%, Jiwoo confirmed. We are supposed to instruct, not terrify. Today was the first time in 3 years I fought the way I was actually trained. Those legends we laughed at. The stories about warriors who never surrendered. They were all true, were they not? Every single one, Jiwoo said. We tried to tell you. You did not want to listen. I am sorry, the Zentari said. For the mockery. For not taking your training seriously. For treating your entire species as primitive. Jiwoo looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded once. Apology accepted. Just do not make the same mistake again. In the station's cantina, Lieutenant June Park sat with a meal he barely touched. The same group of Raxian officers from before entered. They saw him and hesitated. Finally, one of them approached. Lieutenant Park, may we sit? June gestured to the empty seats without speaking. The Vraxian sat awkwardly. The one who had spoken cleared his throat. We owe you an apology. What we said before, about the human problem, about your species having no qualifications. We were wrong, yes, June said simply. You were. Why did humans not demonstrate your capabilities earlier? Another asked. You could have shown us what you were capable of at any time. June set down his fork and looked at them directly. Because we were trying to fit in. We thought if you saw what we really are, you would fear us. We were right about that, by the way. I can see the fear in your eyes right now. The Vraxian said nothing. But it turns out you needed to see it to respect us, June continued. 3 years of patience did not earn respect. One battle did. That tells me something important about how this coalition works. He stood and picked up his tray. One of the Vraxians called after him. Lieutenant, are humans always this angry? June paused. No, but we remember everything. Every dismissal. Every mockery. Every time we were treated as primitive newcomers. We remember all of it. And now you know we are not the species you thought we were. Sleep well with that knowledge. He left them sitting in silence. In her quarters, Commander Hana Kim wrote her report to Earth Command. She described the battle in clinical detail. The casualties. The tactics. The results. At the end, she added a personal assessment. Today changed everything. The galaxy now knows what humans are capable of when we stop holding back. Word will spread. Other species will react, some with respect, some with fear, some with both. We can never go back to being the harmless newcomers. That mask is gone forever. She paused, then added one more line. Perhaps that is for the best. They need to know what we are. They need to understand that human warriors are not legends. We are history. And now we are their present. She sent the report and looked out her window at the stars. Somewhere out there, pirate networks were already spreading word of what happened at Station Zenith 7. They would tell stories about humans who did not stop fighting, who pushed through injuries that should have been fatal, who turned a desperate defense into a victory through sheer refusal to lose. Commander Hana Kim walked into the War Council chamber with her datapad clutched against her chest. The massive room stretched before her, filled with officers from a dozen different species. Tall Vraxians with their blue-scaled skin stood near the tactical display. Short Zentari with their forearms gestured rapidly as they spoke. The air smelled strange. A mix of different atmospheres adjusted for different biology. This was her first time attending the full council meeting. Humans had only joined the Galactic Defense Coalition 3 years ago. Earth was still the new member, still proving itself worthy of being here. Hana took her seat at the far end of the table. Nobody looked at her. Nobody acknowledged her arrival. Admiral Trelvax dominated the head of the table. The Vraxian commander was enormous, easily twice Hana's height. His scales shimmered under the lights as he spoke. His voice rumbled like distant thunder. The pirate raids in Sector 9 continue, Trelvax said. They strike fast and retreat before we can respond. We need better patrol patterns. Hana studied the tactical display. She had seen this pattern before. Not in space, but in Earth's history. During the ancient wars, raiders used the same strategy. She raised her hand slowly. Commander Kim, Trelvax acknowledged her with obvious reluctance. We could use a defense-in-depth strategy, Hana said carefully. Layer our forces so the pirates think they are escaping, but actually push them into prepared positions. Several officers turned to look at her. A Vraxian captain started laughing. The sound was harsh and loud. Defense in depth? The captain's voice dripped with amusement. That is an ancient human tactic. From when your species was still fighting with primitive weapons on a single planet. Other officers joined the laughter. Hana felt heat rise to her face, but she kept her expression neutral. Human military history is quite entertaining, another Vraxian said. I read about your ancient wars. So many deaths over tiny pieces of land. Your species spent thousands of years killing each other over resources. And those legends, a Zentari officer added. Stories about warriors who supposedly never surrendered, who fought until the last soldier fell. Surely those are exaggerations for propaganda purposes. Admiral Trelvax raised a hand for silence. The laughter stopped, but smiles remained on many faces. Commander Kim means well, the admiral said. But human warfare was primitive brawling between fractured tribes. We fight with technology and superior tactics now. Your species will learn our methods in time. Hana said nothing more. She looked down at her datapad and made notes while the council continued without her input. In the training halls 3 levels below, Sergeant Jiwoo Choi faced a different kind of challenge. She stood in the center of the combat room, surrounded by a mixed unit of alien soldiers. They were supposed to be learning close-quarters combat techniques. Again, Jiwoo said patiently, when an opponent grabs your weapon, you use their momentum against them. Like this. She demonstrated the move slowly. A smooth turn, a shift of weight, and the practice dummy tumbled to the mat. A tall Zentari soldier laughed. His forearms crossed over his chest in a gesture of dismissal. Why do we need to learn this? He asked. Modern combat happens at range. We use plasma rifles and energy shields. Nobody fights hand-to-hand anymore. Equipment fails, Jiwoo said. Shields drop. Weapons jam. You need to know how to fight without them. On your backward planet, perhaps, another alien said. This one was Vraxian, young and overconfident. But we maintain our equipment properly. The Zentari soldier started making exaggerated movements, pretending to fight with his hands. His fellow trainees laughed. Look at me, I am an ancient human warrior, he said mockingly. I fight with my bare hands because I am too primitive for technology. Jiwoo watched this display without expression. Her hands remained loose at her sides. She had been an instructor for 5 years. She had dealt with difficult students before, but never ones who treated her entire species as a joke. Pair up for practice, she said calmly. Work on the techniques I showed you. The aliens paired up, but most of them barely tried. They went through the motions while talking and laughing among themselves. Jiwoo made notes on her datapad. She would report this, but she already knew nothing would change. Humans were new. Humans were primitive. Humans had to prove themselves worthy of respect. Later that evening, Lieutenant June Park sat alone in the station's cantina. He had finished his shift in communications and wanted a quiet meal before sleep. The cantina was busy, filled with off-duty personnel from various species. June ate his food and tried not to listen to the conversations around him. But voices carried in the large space. A group of Vraxian officers sat at a nearby table speaking loudly. The human problem, one of them said. That is what Command is calling it privately. They take themselves so seriously. 3 years in the coalition, and what have they accomplished? another asked. No major victories. No technological contributions. Just constant references to their violent history. I heard their commander suggested using ancient Earth tactics in today's council meeting, the first officer said. Trelvax was quite patient with her. They all laughed. The sound made June's hands tighten around his fork. Honestly, I do not understand why they were admitted to the coalition at all, a third Vraxian said. They have one barely unified planet, no significant fleet. Their only distinction is an unusually violent history. That is not a qualification for military service. Politics, the second officer replied. Earth has resources, and they were persistent about joining. Sometimes it is easier to let the primitive species in and let them learn their place naturally. More laughter. June finished his meal mechanically. He stood and carried his tray to the recycling station. As he passed the Vraxian table, one of them called out to him, Lieutenant Park. No offense intended in our conversation. We respect your service. June stopped and looked at them. 4 officers, all older than him, all with more experience and higher ranks, all of them smiling in a way that was not quite friendly. None taken, June said quietly. He left without another word. Back in her quarters, Commander Hana Kim sat at her desk and wrote her daily report to Earth Command. She described the council meeting, the laughter, the dismissal of human tactics. She kept her language professional and factual. At the end of the report, she added a personal note, something she would not normally include in official communications. They think our history is mythology. They think our warriors are legends created for propaganda. They have no concept of what humans are actually capable of when pushed. Perhaps that is for the best. Perhaps we should let them continue believing we are harmless. She sent the report and prepared for sleep. Tomorrow would bring more meetings, more dismissals, more patience. Humans were good at patience. They had learned it over thousands of years of warfare. They could wait for respect to come naturally. Suddenly, every light in her quarters turned red. Emergency lighting. A klaxon started blaring through the station's communication system. Hana was out of bed and into her uniform in seconds. Her comm device activated automatically. All personnel to battle stations. This is not a drill. Hostile fleet detected. Multiple ships. All personnel to battle stations immediately. Hana grabbed her datapad and ran for the command center. As she moved through the corridors, she passed dozens of alien soldiers doing the same. Their faces showed surprise. Some showed fear. This station had not seen real combat in decades. Her comm device buzzed with an encrypted message from Earth Command. She read it while running. The message was brief. Just 4 words and an authorization code. Protocol. 7 now authorized. Hana's expression did not change, but something shifted in her eyes. 3 years of patience. 3 years of being dismissed and mocked and treated as primitive newcomers. That was about to end. The game was over. Now the aliens would see what humans actually were. 3 months after the Battle of Zenith 7, Commander Hana Kim stood in front of the full Galactic Defense Coalition Council. The chamber was enormous, filled with representatives from dozens of species. Holographic displays showed her presentation to everyone present. She wore her dress uniform. Every medal earned, every commendation awarded. Behind her, projected large enough for everyone to see, were statistics from human military history. Numbers that made several council members shift uncomfortably in their seats. Thank you for allowing me to present formal human combat doctrine, Hana began. For 3 years we have operated under coalition protocols. Today I will explain what we actually are, and how we can best serve this coalition going forward. She changed the display. Humanity evolved on Earth, a Class 12 death world. Everything on our planet was either prey or predator, and often both. We developed as persistence hunters. We learned to chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. This shaped our biology and our psychology in ways that affect combat capability. Another change. Our bodies produce massive amounts of adrenaline. We heal faster than most species. We can function through injuries that incapacitate others. But more importantly, we developed something else. We developed the capacity to simply refuse defeat. She pulled up historical battles, 10,000 years of human warfare. Conflicts that lasted decades, battles with casualty rates you consider unacceptable, sieges that continued for years. We learned to accept losses that other species cannot comprehend. We learned to keep fighting when any rational analysis said we should surrender. A Vraxian council member raised his hand. Commander Kim, are you suggesting that human irrationality is an asset? I'm suggesting that what you call irrational we call necessary. On Earth, the groups that surrendered when outnumbered died out. The groups that fought to the last soldier survived to pass on their genes. We are the descendants of survivors. Quitting is not in our nature because evolution eliminated everyone who quit too easily. She continued her presentation for an hour. She explained acceptable casualty rates in human military planning, the concept of victory through attrition, the tactical use of desperation, the strategic value of a reputation for ferocity. Every concept was alien to coalition warfare, which emphasized minimal casualties and clean victories. When she finished, the council chamber was silent for a long moment. Finally, the council chairman spoke. Commander Kim, your presentation is disturbing. You describe warfare as we have never practiced it, but events at Zenith 7 suggest your methods have merit. The council has decided to implement several changes based on your recommendations. Across coalition space, those changes were already taking effect. At the Coalition Military Academy on Proxima Station, Sergeant Jiwoo Choi stood before a class of 200 officer candidates. Aliens from a dozen species filled the auditorium. All of them watched her with careful attention. None of them laughed. Welcome to Human Combat Doctrine 101, Jiwoo began. This course is now mandatory for all coalition officers. You will learn tactics we developed over 10,000 years of warfare. Some of these tactics will disturb you. Some will seem barbaric, but they work and you need to understand them. She pulled up a tactical display. Lesson 1. Acceptable losses. In coalition warfare, you minimize casualties. In human warfare, we accept that casualties are inevitable. The question is not whether soldiers will die, but whether their deaths accomplish the mission objective. A Zentari student raised one of his forearms. Sergeant, is that not simply treating soldiers as expendable resources? No, Jiwoo said firmly. We value every life. But we also understand that sometimes sacrifice is necessary for victory. The difference is choice. Human soldiers choose to take risks that other species would not. We volunteer for dangerous missions. We hold impossible positions, not because we are expendable, but because we believe some things are worth dying for. The class continued. Jiwoo taught concepts that had never been part of coalition military education. Fighting while wounded, using desperation as a weapon, the psychology of refusal, how to push through pain and fear to complete the mission. In another training facility, Captain Daewon Lee instructed Coalition Special Forces in advanced tactics. His students were the best soldiers from each species, elite troops who had never failed a mission. They watched his demonstrations with equal parts fascination and horror. Human Special Operations Doctrine is built on 3 principles, Lee explained. First, we go where others cannot. Second, we do what others will not. Third, we never leave anyone behind. These are not suggestions. These are absolutes. He showed footage from Earth's Special Forces operations, rescues conducted against impossible odds, targets eliminated despite overwhelming opposition, missions that should have failed but succeeded through sheer determination. Notice the pattern, Lee said. In every case, success came not from superior technology or numbers, but from refusal to accept failure. Human Special Forces operators are trained to continue the mission even when wounded, even when support is cut off, even when survival seems impossible. A Vraxian Special Forces officer asked the question everyone was thinking. Captain Lee, how do you train that mindset? How do you teach soldiers to fight beyond rational limits? You cannot teach it, Lee admitted. It is cultural. Human children grow up hearing stories of warriors who never surrendered. We celebrate last stands and impossible victories. We honor those who fought against terrible odds. By the time humans join the military, that mindset is already ingrained. We do not learn to be stubborn. We are born stubborn and then trained to weaponize it. In the administrative offices of Coalition High Command, Lieutenant June Park was promoted to commander. His new assignment was strategic planning. His first major project was controversial. He proposed creating a dedicated human rapid response force. The concept is simple, June explained to the planning committee. Coalition forces handle normal military operations. You are excellent at organized warfare with clear objectives. But sometimes situations arise that require a different approach. Hostage rescues, last stands, desperate defenses. For those situations, you deploy humans, a committee member objected. Commander Park, this sounds like you are proposing humans as shock troops, as expendable forces for suicide missions. Not expendable, June corrected, specialized, there is a difference. You do not send humans because you expect them to die. You send humans because when the mission seems impossible, they find a way to make it possible, not through magic or superior technology, but through sheer refusal to quit. He pulled up casualty statistics. Look at human survival rates in desperate situations. They are higher than any other species. Why? Because humans keep fighting when others give up. Because humans help each other when others save themselves. Because humans do not accept mission failure as an option. The proposal was approved. Within weeks, the Human Rapid Response Force began training. 500 humans, all volunteers, all eager to show the galaxy what humanity could do. Meanwhile, in the lawless regions beyond Coalition space, pirate networks had fully internalized the lesson from Zenith 7. New guidelines were distributed to every pirate captain, smuggler, and raider. The rules were simple and absolute. Avoid human ships. Avoid stations with human defenders. If you encounter humans, retreat immediately. Do not test them. Do not provoke them. Do not assume you can win through numbers or surprise. Humans are persistence predators. They will chase you longer than makes sense. They will endure more than you can inflict. And if you corner them, they will take you with them. Piracy rates in Coalition space dropped by 40% in the first month. Criminal organizations learned quickly that humans were not worth the price. One pirate lord put it simply in a message to his fleet. Those are not soldiers. Those are predators pretending to be civilized. And they are done pretending. 6 months after Zenith 7, Commander Hana Kim returned to the station, now designated as the primary facility for Coalition human military integration. She walked through corridors that had once echoed with mockery. Now they were filled with respect. Alien soldiers saluted as she passed. Officers nodded respectfully. In the training halls, mixed units practiced under human instructors. The humans no longer held back, and their alien students no longer laughed. They were too busy trying to learn even a fraction of human combat capability. In her office, Hana prepared her final report to Earth Command. She summarized everything that had changed, the respect humans had earned, the fear they now commanded, the integration of human doctrine into Coalition military planning. At the end of the report, she added a personal assessment. We came to the Coalition believing we needed to hide what we were. We thought if other species saw our true nature, they would reject us. We were wrong. They needed to see it. They needed to understand that humanity is not a species of gentle explorers who occasionally fight. We are warriors who have learned to be gentle. There is a difference, and the galaxy now understands that difference. Our legends were never myths. Our stories of impossible victories were never exaggerations. They were history, and now they are the present. The galaxy laughed at human warriors who never surrendered. They are not laughing anymore. They are studying those warriors as examples of what soldiers should be.